if the country is not big enough, somehow it's not treated seriously on the ideas that people generate there, which is a big mistake, by the way. When you're starting a startup, one of the things is you think about exits.
Kind of moving from, I guess, traditional technology and IT to moving to a world which is more decentralized and sort of blockchain oriented, right? Talk to me about why that transition, where does that sort of hook come from? Joining me, all the way from Europe is Dina Tsybulskaya.
If one operator of yours does not have coverage, and we immediately switch to the other operator. So for us, it's no limitation. While for a traditional telco, the logic goes as follows. You have a preferred partner and non-preferred partner.
It's a mouthful. So welcome to today's episode of Couchonomics with Arjun. Joining me, all the way from Europe, and we got to check for which part of Europe because she's lived in a lot of different parts, is Dina Tsybulskaya. Did I get that right, Dina?
Absolutely.
Great. Dina is the CEO of eSIM Plus, and
Correct.
She happened to be in the UAE to attend Token 2049. Unfortunately, didn't get to attend much of it, but
part of it.
But let me welcome her on the couch. So Dina, welcome to, I guess, the studio.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Dina, let me first start with a little bit. I think it'd be interesting to hear a bit about your background because you have quite an interesting background. You worked in a number of different parts of the world with a few companies. So tell us a little bit about who you are and how did you land up with eSIM Plus?
Okay, so I'm coming from a very traditional industry. I'm coming from telecommunications.
Oh, they wouldn't like to hear that.
I have to admit it already. When I joined, it was still, a developing, growing, and, blooming thing. And that's how fast things change in this world these days. Now it's already institutional, oldish, trying to figure it out further. So I was in the number of companies in C-level positions for the last 15 years. And changed number of countries as well, and number of groups for which I was working. And I was lucky to work for groups with very different background, for Austrian group, for Turkish group, and for Deutsche Telecom, which is originally German, but now has a lot of influence of US, because it's also a big part of T-Mobile US.
You are. Right.
So that was, an interesting journey through the different corporate cultures. And I was also in a number of countries around Europe. I didn't travel outside Europe. Again, learning new cultures, new languages, by the way, and new ideas also. Because, what I also noticed is that if the country is not big enough, somehow it's not treated seriously on the ideas that people generate there, which is a big mistake, by the way. There are still a lot of very talented people. There are a lot of great things that are coming from smaller countries. And I was lucky to see it up close and personal. And I made a lot of friends and very good colleagues.
So how did eSIM Plus come around? And
eSIM Plus came around when I realized exactly the thing which I started to talk about, is that telecommunications starting to get old and too traditional, too institutional. And then the guys sort of, we are coming from a similar background back years before. And I realized that it's a company which is growing from IT business, very, very IT business, very startup business, very dynamic. And they addressed me because among the product line which they were developing, they also had this eSIM business. And they sort of came to me to use my telecommunication background and expertise to move it further and to develop it already into, a different scale business. What was amazing is that you get stuck a bit in thinking into national levels, into regulation, into borders of one country. And then the guys are coming and start immediately talking globally and thinking globally. And thinking next level of technology. And that was just amazing, because what you're doing in traditional business, you're thinking how to get rid of legacy. What is legacy? What, comes as legacy? How do you cut your costs? How do you become leaner? And then suddenly you are coming to the point where they're talking only growth, and the growth percentages, are in hundreds. While in traditional telco, we're, fighting for percentages. So like 5% growth year over year is, wow, huge one. And here, like, okay, the opportunity is in Nigeria, or opportunities in Asia, what we look for. How do we treat Latin America? So it's a totally different, way of thinking.
So just for the audience sake, and obviously for mine too. So an eSIM is basically a portable, I guess, telephone connection or a mobile connection that travels with you multi-jurisdiction.
Sort of, yes.
But please, we'd love to hear your view on what is an eSIM.
A bit of technology flavored talk. So eSIM is a thing which is totally software, which functions in the same way as your normal SIM would do, the physical SIM, which you would have in your phone. But it's just not physical. So the thing is that in terms of reliability, in terms of any other characteristics, it's absolutely the same. It just has no physical form. And it functions in what is called SIM supporting devices. Devices in absolute majority of cases is a smartphone. Of course, you have variables like watch, but let's talk about smartphones. And so if you have your SIM supporting device, let's say it's Apple for simplicity, because Apple started this some years ago, and they are by far the most, let's say, advanced in the technology in that respect. So you can take your phone, you can download it from the air, basically, through internet. And then you can have several eSIMs on your phone simultaneously. So if you would look back like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there was a huge discussion and huge market for dual SIM smartphones. And I, from my experience, also can tell you that it was a very interesting niche segment, which was not, by the way, very niche. It was pretty big. So now people who are using a SIM can have many SIMs simultaneously in their phone, and they decide how these SIMs will function. And basically, you don't need to sacrifice anything for that. So that's one very important story. The other one is that you can do it really fully digital. So it's nothing like you do it digitally up to the point and then you need to get it delivered or you need to do this or that. No. You do go on the portal, on web or app. You push a couple of buttons, you select what you want to have, and then you just get downloaded on your phone. And that you can do anywhere for any country. So the beauty of eSIM Plus is that we provide this connectivity. Unlike a traditional telco, we provide it in any country of your choice, of your need. And when you're downloading this eSIM, you can be, let's say you can be in Dubai planning to travel to Thailand. So what you're downloading is an eSIM, a software. And then you say, okay, I need data in Thailand on this eSIM. So you push another button on your screen. And then whenever you arrive to Thailand, you have data in Thailand. And then you can travel more and more. Plus, we have what we call global packages, which is basically you download it once. You prepaid as regular pay-as-you-go product. And then you go countries, and wherever you go, it's there.
So, Dina, I've got to stop. So I use one of the two operators that are in the UAE, right? Now, they offer me eSIM. They actually do offer me roaming packages, both on data and call. So what's different about eSIM Plus? So why wouldn't I just stick with the guys? Because I travel every week for work, right? And I basically just take a roaming package for the number of days that I'm going. Pretty much all the countries I travel to is covered. They have standard packages varying based on the number of data and the hours I use. So why would I go through the process of downloading eSIM Plus or any such provider? Why wouldn't I just stick to the ones I'm using?
Yeah. The answer is price, frankly, and coverage. So let me explain the beauty of it. The price is so the operator which you're using in, let's say, your home country has what we call wholesale agreements with other operators, roaming wholesale agreements. So it depends on the amount of traffic which this operator generates with other operators. And roaming is a revenue stream for the companies. So they are quite, very cautious in their negotiations between each other, in this one-on-one negotiations about how to set the prices between themselves, which brings then roaming prices usually higher than, let's say, normal prices.
Prohibitively higher.
Sometimes, yes. Yeah. Depending on, you being in Dubai, but again, the same story goes for this region as well. Though it's a more touristic region, there is more traffic, so the local operators theoretically have a bigger opportunity to have better prices with bigger number of countries. There are countries where the touristic traffic is not that big, and their prices are even higher because the mutual, let's say, supply is more limited. So the beauty of us is that we sort of are an extra layer, and we talk local prices to the operators. And we move further and further with this because, and it's easier for operators to give us those because they are not having the reciprocity in this case. So they are only supply. They're not losing any demand for that. And that's one thing. So pricing is an obvious advantage. The other one is that because we are working with all the operators present in the region, what is happening is that if one operator of yours does not have coverage, and we immediately switch to the other operator. So for us, it's no limitation. While for traditional telco, the logic goes as follows. You have a preferred partner and non-preferred partner. And the systems work that you would be steered to a preferred partner as much as it's possible. Plus, if you're not steered to the preferred partner, most likely the prices will start, again degrading.
But just as a follow-on question, are there more and more players? This is sort of a bit like what happened when the MVNOs came around first, right? You saw a proliferation of MVNOs because they were buying the traffic off the primary operators, if I may call it, and they were able to package products arguably more competitively and target different segments by putting value-added services. Is it similar in terms of how this is evolving?
In a way similar. In a way similar that it's an extra layer to the infrastructure guys, and the majority of traffic we are buying from the same infrastructure people who.
So you'd be buying from Etisalat, STC, whatever, right?
Yeah. Okay. So those who are physically present here, who physically have antennas.
So Dina, interesting what you say, right? In the sense, I understand and I appreciate that, and in a way similar-ish to the MVNOs, but we're not going to get into that. Are you seeing hyper growth in this segment of players coming in to offer, electronic SIMs, especially with the cross-border angle?
Absolutely, and the wave is growing.
And so what do you expect the incumbent infrastructure players to do? Are they actually going to start buying out these players? Because eventually, I'm assuming roaming and cross-border is a highly lucrative segment, isn't it? That's kind of where the profitability sits.
Well, obviously, when you're starting a startup, one of the things is you think about exits.
Exit.
And yes, we are expecting telecom groups at a certain point in time when the business gets pressing in terms of the total volume, which it's so far it's not. So it is yet eating part of the roaming revenue mostly. But the moment it will start eating from the national revenue, which is coming, because what we are working at is that we will be supplementing gradually the main connectivity providers for many people, going from this supplementary SIM card into the main card through having a monthly fee available everywhere. It will be still the relatively niche product in terms of it will be covering the upper segment of consumers, but it is also the most lucrative segment of consumers for telcos. So to have it to themselves is quite a natural next step. And that's the expectation.
And when you say the upper segment, so upper segment in terms of, are you talking about business users, or are you talking about upper in terms of income and usage segment? So how do you define this upper segment?
I will start with people traveling a lot because it's a natural match.
Match, agreed.
But generally, you also will have it with the people who just spend relatively more than the rest. So we are not looking at those who are spending like €5 per month on connectivity. This segment is not addressable at that point in time, at least. And I don't believe it will be addressable in 4 years from now. So we are rather looking at the people who are spending currently $50 to $100 per month, which is quite big segment across the borders. So we are mostly targeting those. Why we believe that it will also become a supplement to a national coverage or national usage is because the coverage opportunities which we will be providing will be bigger, so the quality will be better. The reliability thus will be better. And plus, we working at the platform which connects not only the traditional telcos, but also other kind of providers. Again, guaranteeing bigger capacity, which means bigger speeds, bigger reliability, and just provides also an opportunity in terms of price negotiations.
Price arbitrage. Okay. Well, let me be the devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't you guys at the mercy of the regulators? Aren't you at the mercies of the infrastructure providers who actually have the bulk of the traffic sitting with them?
The mercy of infrastructure providers is overrated. And that's because actually when you see people have this demand, and you see that your competitor is going into this game, and telcos are now going into this game quite actively with the guys like us, then you can either sort of try to protect yourself or admit it's happening. And what I believe telco industry learned through its relatively short, long history is that the long you ignore the real need of people, the bigger is the chances that you will miss it out completely. So we were ignoring Skype, we were ignoring applications on the phone. We didn't realize, where it's taking us all. And when telco then realized what is happening, it was a bit too late in some of the points. Exactly.
Well, I guess COVID was up sort of, if I may say, a bit of a black swan event, if that's what I'd call it. But
even before that, if you would ask me 15 years ago, what is the future of voice? I would tell you that, okay, we killed the fixed voice, but mobile voice will last forever, which is absolutely not true in 15 years from that. It was already not true in 10 years. So, and telecommunications is the industry which thinks longer, for very obvious reasons that it's infrastructure CapEx heavy industry. So you have to plan longer terms. And when you think about it, and here are the guys like us who are, IT natural, cloud-based, crypto thinking, blockchain analyzing, and then here you go with this, big infrastructure companies. You can think that you can outsmart them, the small guys. Probably not, but you can outmoney them in terms of that. Blocking will not probably work, but making them part of your game will work.
And I think that is the smart approach to it. So it's very interesting, but before we started, you mentioned that, eSIM Plus itself is going through a very interesting transition, and I'll use the terms which might not be a bit fair, but you're kind of moving to it from I guess, traditional technology and IT to moving to a world which is more decentralized and sort of blockchain oriented, right? Talk to me about why that transition, where does that sort of hook come from? To make the shift.
Why it's not fair? It's fair. It's an absolutely fair comment. So why the transition? Very much to the reasons which we were discussing before. We do not want to be at full mercy of the infrastructure providers. That's one thing. Mm-hmm. The other one is that we do see that among the audience, which is our primary target audience, is the need to be of a more, two needs actually. One is to be more controlling what they have. And here, decentralized infrastructure networks is very much what is answering this need. So in a way, individuals are becoming a small, tiny providers of connectivity in their tiny surrounding. Mm-hmm. So what we are basically looking for is to make this DePIN world, which is out there. So a lot of different companies are trying it out already. And they already have tokens to incentivize people to buy their equipment, connect it to a platform, trade it against tokens, etc. What we are looking at is that because we already are connected to telecommunication traditional companies, we already have a data user base, which is pretty significant. So what we see as a natural match is to help those people who are building DePIN for other people who are part of this DePIN infrastructure to also become a part of this bigger play. Mm-hmm. Because again, as I said, I don't believe in competition between traditional telcos and decentralized telcos, if we can use this term. I believe in cooperation in this case. Why? Because what telco will be facing inevitably is a capacity challenge. The traffic is still growing exponentially. And again, coming from traditional industry of that, I remember in 2010, we were looking at the graphs of predicted traffic, which was brought by some of the consultancy companies, and we couldn't believe it. We, being in this industry, couldn't believe that the traffic can grow that way. And then, 3G made it to the fullest, 4G joined, now 5G joining. Producers are already talking about 6G, and the traffic will be growing. That's obvious. And then the 5G nature of the network itself is that it's extremely electricity consuming. Mm-hmm. It's expensive. It does not have a very big coverage, so it has to have a lot of small, and let's call it antennas, for simplicity, mm-hmm. not to overload. And the traffic which is coming there is huge, but the price levels which are there is still very much driving it to commodity price mm-hmm. levels. So they will need to have a supplementary thing for the CapEx investment. And here comes the decentralized networks built by, people here and there, where they are actually turning the spare capacity, if you want, from the fiber, which they have, into mobile connectivity. And then what the traditional telcos can gain from that, if you have this one platform which is trading the traditional traffic, let's call it, and the DePIN traffic, and then you can reuse it sort of, together, there is no reason why not to.
Yeah, and obviously that takes care of the extra capex which is required.
Exactly.
But let me take a few steps back for the audience.
Yeah.
DePIN.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. Could you deconstruct DePIN for us a little bit and
sure.
in sort of simple parlay?
Well, in reality, if you look into the term, it covers a lot of things, and maybe that's what brings even biggest confusion, because DePIN is now a fancy word for everything which is blockchain related.
So it's decentralized physical
infrastructure
networks. Yes, because I read 200 pages of it just before I had to meet you, because I'll be honest with you, I did not understand it fully. I'd heard the term a few times, but I'd never read into it. Sorry.
And in reality, the confusion also comes from the fact that a lot of different people actually imply different things, for that term, because they can be DePIN networks for mining. They could be DePIN networks for data storage, and then also physical infrastructure for telecommunications. So it's just one of the implementation of the concept, let's say. You have what is called nodes, antennas, or like source of traffic. Let's call it this way.
So that would be me, for example.
Not you, but the antenna you bought.
Oh, sorry. Well, who knows? Maybe,
I don't know your capacity.
Who knows with where Elon Musk is going next? We might actually become antennas too. But all right, no, I get that. Sorry.
Yeah. So and then you can use it for, depending on where you connect it to, what is the platform which guys like us provide you. Then you can be using it for different purposes. You can do mining of the tokens, which is within this, let's say, network. You can do storage. You can do confirmation. Basically, if to make even one step back, the blockchain is about decentralized confirmation of the transactions happening within some network. Yeah? And this some network can have different scales and can different nature, but what we are talking here now is public, decentralized network based on physical points, which generate traffic, which is internet traffic, which support Wi-Fi functionality within the close proximity of that receiver and transmitter at the same time. And then basically that's a small Wi-Fi spot. For very, very simple explanation, it's a Wi-Fi spot which you provide yourself.
So what do I, as an individual with whatever I carry, become a part of a DePIN network? So how do I become a part of that DePIN? What do I need to have?
Depending on the DePIN network you are now.
So let's talk about telecommunication. Let's talk about eSIM Plus.
Even with us, what we are doing now, we are building a platform for other DePIN providers to connect it.
Okay.
And these other DePIN providers can have a sort of different approach to that. But the classical approach, if we can talk about classics in that stage, is that a DePIN provider has their set of devices which they have at their central warehouse, let's say. And then they dispatch it. If you would like to be a part of that, you receive this device, you install it. Usually it's rather simple, like you would install a router at your home. Mm-hmm. And the device is connected to this platform which sees your device. It sees what it's doing, so sort of what's traffic it's transmitting, and also it shows to the others guys like that look, here is this device, there is this device, you can connect it and you can use traffic because you are also connected and you are also generating traffic. And the system is basically, because it's the blockchain, it does this, let's say, automatically. So it does it on the blockchain.
So it does auto routing of the traffic. And so does eSIM Plus then become a platform of platforms?
Yes.
Right? Do you then walk away from the eSIM business as such?
No. Not.
Right.
That's actually the two things which are coming very naturally together.
Okay.
Because the eSIM business, it's not eSIM business, it's eSIM connectivity business, which is important. Yeah, we provide connectivity with any technology we have at hand, and for us, our customers are people who are using mobile connectivity, who wants to stay online 24/7. So what we are doing is that we are collecting supply, let's call it this way, of various nature. And then whenever the person needs this connectivity, we provide it with the best thing we have. So we would, the more DePIN networks which we add to the platform, we would prioritize them because we believe that they need to have their revenue share and they need to be incentivized to grow. But if there is no connectivity, and we are fully aware that so far the PIN networks cannot supplement regular providers, there is a reason why it costs millions to build infrastructure. So it is when there is no DePIN, it comes regular infrastructure in place. Moreover, we are also thinking that satellite connectivity should also be on the platform. So where there is none of that, there is satellite. And the concept, it's exactly the concept of platform of platforms. What we also believe is that because we are providing the service to the end customers, and we are doing it, we know how to do it, the demand from the users, which we will be creating by that, is also the the fuel for the guys to build more DePIN. Because the classical reason why DePIN are difficult to sort of to pick up is that this is this regular problem of any platform business. It's chicken egg. So what is the customers or the supply? So it's either too little spots, so you don't want to join, or when you join, there are too little customers to use it, so it's not paying back. So we are exactly, our idea is to close exactly that problem, because we are growing with the customers, with our eSIM business, using it and managing it as a classical telco business. But on the other hand, because there is demand, we are creating sort of demand to this supply and taking away this, this problem of, I buy my antenna. Whom am I going to sell it to? There is nobody. Guys, we do build you to whom to sell. This is the job we're doing. So that's how we see it.
So Dina, it's a fairly complex business model, because just let me just try and understand it, right? So apologies if I get this wrong, because I think I will get it wrong. So one part of your business is to cater to individuals like me who want to download your eSIM, use it for whatever reason I want to use it for. The other part of your business is that you are finding individuals, again, like me, right, who are willing to be a part of your DePIN infrastructure, correct? You're not.
No.
So who's doing that then?
Now, we are not looking for individuals. We are talking to people, to guys who already have DePIN.
Okay.
So they are building it in different countries. So their job is to engage the individuals to build it. Our job is to engage them to our platform.
Right. So you're connecting to their platform. And in all of this, where do the classical infrastructure players land up? Because they're also people who are providing you bandwidth, right? They're also providing you. So are they using you to get to the end customer and also to the DePIN infrastructure?
So far, they're not using it for DePIN because we are not yet there. But yes, so far they are providing the traffic to our end customers. But the idea is that as DePIN is growing and the need for capacity is growing, then yes, then we are also the link between the classical infrastructure and DePIN infrastructure.
Okay, so I understand. All right. So the growth of DePIN is, as you said, it is potentially a more, I guess, efficient answer for the additional capex that is required. It's obviously taking care of the redundant availability of I guess bandwidth, if I may use that term incorrectly or correctly. Quality of service actually improves because you get greater coverage because you're able to permeate into bits and pieces because you're able to use the wider network. So all those are positive. What will it take for DePIN to really take off in different parts of the world? And do you see certain countries where I guess coverage is a challenge be the first part where you'll see growth, or are you going to see slightly more developed countries with more developed infrastructures where DePIN is going to take off? So two questions. Where do you see it taking off, and what do you see as the biggest challenges for takeoff?
I think that it will take off first in the countries where the purchase capacity allows it.
Okay. Purchase capacity from a consumer perspective.
From a consumer perspective.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Because it's still an investment. It's not multi-million investment, but it's €100 investment or €200 investment. So it's investment. So that's one thing. The other one is that it does make sense to look at the countries where crypto usage is already quite advanced. So we have like crypto communities, and from that perspective, there are sort of, match. For example, Turkey is the country which does have this level of purchase capacity of people who can afford it, let's put it this way. And the blockchain crypto usage is extremely high. So, for example, that's definitely one of the countries which we believe will pick up quite fast. And then in Europe, we also think that there is a potential for that to grow. Europe, Turkey are still the countries with very good traditional infrastructure, which at the beginning is not a problem, actually. At the beginning, it's rather a possibility because there is a lot of spare capacity there. The problem is rather that when there is little spare capacity, this building DePIN will require more effort and will require more integration. So we are looking at these regions as the regions which we believe will be, and US, of course, US for obvious.
And where do you see the crossover with the challenges with the crypto regulation? Because, at the end of the day, a lot of this is made available by the ability to exchange
True.
money, if I may use that term, right? Money over the internet, but so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So how much are you kind of held back as an industry, which is trying to solve the problem for connectivity, bandwidth, telcos, but actually incumbent on the free-flowing the money on the internet, and that regulation is still sort of, at best in most countries, unclear.
True. Again, I'm coming from a traditional telco business where regulation is extremely important. And my experience with regulation is that, I may be just too optimistic currently, but...
It's good to be optimistic.
Regularly, yes. But what I saw happening was that first the reaction to the unknown of any regulator is to go way too far. They don't understand what they are regulating. They don't understand where it's going. And the first reaction is, let's block it all. Let's just don't do anything. And then as the things develop, usually some compromises are starting to appear. Because, again, first of all, there are a lot of benefits, which needs to be somehow, incorporated. There will be lobbying of various kinds, to make it happen. And I may now sound funny, but I also believe that in the story of regulation is that when the people who are like humans who are doing this regulation start using this and start understanding whatever they're regulating, it's then start becoming much more
real.
Real.
Yep. And I think education and awareness is a very critical part with this whole piece. Everything to do with decentralization, blockchain, so on and so forth. I think most of us are just uninformed. And actually, we're not being, I'll be honest with you, the industry, or I think the crypto bros, as they call it, or the crypto gals, as they call it, I don't think you guys have done a great job in terms of demystifying the topic for, I guess, the average human like me. It's still spoken in terms of languages and words that only those who really understand it understand it. DePIN is a great example, right? As you said, for someone like me who's reading DePIN, and I don't consider myself too stupid, right, was actually not easy to comprehend, because as you said, there were a number of applications which were quite unique, and the term was being very universally applicable. I guess that's a challenge with you guys too, because it's not just about lobbying, it's about educating the regulator too. Are they open to it?
Look, now the brutal story. I'm coming from a traditional telco.
Yep.
Not long. I mean, my story with this business is not the long one. I was learning it myself. And when the founders told me that, look, we are, this is what we are going, wait, give me some time. But I think with blockchain and with crypto, part of it is coming from the fact that, by the way, it's not very clearly separated, and they should be, because blockchain and cryptocurrency are very different things, actually.
Agreed, totally.
And cryptocurrency is this blurred and this, heroic, adventurous, because it's based on trade. It's totally trading thing, and the least clear you are, the bigger Bitcoin costs. That's, the more hysteria you create around it, the bigger is the chances it will, fluctuate higher. And that, I believe, very much impacts the blockchain as technology and approach. Because plus, another thing is that because it's so new, as when things are so new, there are so many scammers around. It's like things are coming out, you jump on it, then it's a disaster, you jump out of it. And that's why I think that the story of companies like ours, who are coming from traditional business, understand traditional business, and are doing traditional business to a large extent, going into it and thinking how we really build something long-term, and we really build something in cooperation with the, let's call it, real world, will also be part of this education. So if this thing works, you can show it and say, look, this is how it's happening. This is what is going on. This is how it benefits traditional telcos. Traditional telcos are paying a lot of money in taxes and in licenses of all sorts. And of course, any government would not like to undermine business of these companies for very obvious reasons. Where we are saying, look, we are not undermining it in any way. We're actually supporting it. We're supporting it to transform, realistically speaking. The biggest issue with telcos is exactly the capex-heavy thing. If to make one step back, when regulators were looking at coverage issues or at licensing or selling spectrum, the spectrum, the most important thing in telco. It was always about also coverage obligations. So you need to either pay us a lot of money this way or another pay it a lot of money in the other way. And now it's very gradually coming to the regulator that the coverage obligations or this, wide sport coverage is not already should not be already a burden to the operators. They cannot just survive it, so they need to look for other ways. And guys like us is an answer to that. The fact that, for example, SpaceX. I forgot the name of Elon Musk satellite company.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Okay, I just like, okay. But the fact that now they are they started cooperating with the major telecom companies to cover white spots with the satellite connectivity shows a huge move that the regulator is doing, because before that it was totally impossible, and I was in this sort of negotiation with regulators offering exactly that, saying, look, it doesn't make sense. Let's take it out from even discussion. Why would we cover something where there is one person living or, 10 people passing it in a year? They were extremely rigid in this regard before, and now it's changing. So I think that it just takes time, education, and awareness.
Yeah, I guess I think this has been the theme across every conversation I've had with people coming from the world of DLT, blockchain, crypto, so on and so forth. I think you will have to bring the regulator along the journey, otherwise you're just going to create bigger challenges for yourself downstream. Yeah. Now, when I was reading about eSIM Plus, I read this sort of statement: modular DePIN super app. Okay. It's a mouthful, to be honest. Yeah. There was three words I could not decipher. Super app means so many things to so many people. DePIN, I was still ambiguous about, and modular, well, is pretty straightforward, but I was trying to put that together with the other two. So please deconstruct, what does a modular DePIN super app mean? What is the ambition or the vision behind that? What is so super about this that you can use the word super app?
Yeah.
And I must say, every telco has at one time or the other wanted to have some sort of a super app strategy, small or big.
I was in Turkcell at exactly that moment.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
So, in a way similar in terms of what is super app, what is super is standing for. It's standing for the fact that we're adding more services to our application and product, but the services which are very naturally connected to what we're doing. We are launching VPN service because that's the first request people are having in this sort of things, and we are launching some of the financial services around it. First of all, we do have a lot of payments in crypto already, so we would like to help people who are doing this with a broader range of opportunities to do it. And we are, at the same time, we see also a lot of fiat payments done throughout the global payments, which again, if you would think about a regular top-up opportunity for your phone, if you are not on postpaid and you are in a different country, it's a nightmare. There are special companies who are doing millions just by doing this.
Just facilitating payments, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I can see payments is a natural extension. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate it. But you mentioned crypto, right? I'm very interested to say, what do you mean by saying extending the crypto offering?
We already have payments in crypto. So we accept crypto payments.
You do.
And for those people who would like to still continue paying us in crypto, not regular fiat money, we would like them to have this opportunity in a faster way to have credit available with us to do the payments.
And so you accept a very wide spectrum of coins. Mm-hmm. And is that you use a third party to help?
Third party.
Okay.
We are using third party for that. Right. Yeah. So because also for the financial services which we will be integrating will be third party services. So we're not going there ourselves. We're not developing.
Sure, makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. We are even in negotiations with one of the very big players here in Dubai in the finance sector to also integrate them or integrate us to their services. Mm-hmm. This is always a question mark. So that's the super is standing for. You sort of come and you have more or less those which are nearby usage things.
So your adjacent offerings which are which a person like me who's using eSIM, which is the core of the product, might want it. So I think, okay. So you use the word super in terms of it's multi-feature.
Multi-feature.
Right, it's multi-feature, but it's within the adjacency. You're not going to start offering home delivery of groceries.
Oh, no. We're not going that way.
No, okay. No, so that's interesting. And how far? So is this a journey that you've already started, and you're further along? And is that actually? I guess it's a natural extension, right? As you said, I think your customers are actually asking for it. So in fact, the demand sort of exists, and you're just meeting that demand, right?
Yeah, and for this company, it's coming very natural, even through the mechanism of doing this, because in reality, the company started with virtual numbers back 4 years ago, and then a year ago, they started to have requests for, if you're giving us numbers, messaging, and voice, why not data everywhere? And then, okay, let's add data from totally different providers and a totally different logic. Then we saw, okay, 60% are coming in crypto. Then we need to, we saw some of the requests saying, look, I would like to pay you in crypto. You sort of business, which sort of easy to do it. We said, okay, good, let's do it. And then the growth, now we see that there are so many payments, let's then extend it.
Why crypto? I'm just trying to understand, why did crypto take off as a form of payment for you? Are you targeting a particular segment, particular countries? Is there some sort of method behind the madness, or?
I think partially it is because the audience is that sort of audience.
Because I've always had a concern with the amount of volatility there is in most crypto coins. And let's be honest with you, Bitcoin's nearly 40% of the entire market cap of all coins are all crypto, right? I would struggle to use Bitcoin. It just doesn't connect with me to say I want to use Bitcoin to pay for my telephone bill or buy a cup of coffee, because today it's 40,000, tomorrow it's 65,000, the next day it's 18,000. So so I'm very interested to understand the psyche of these customers. Is it just because they don't have access to fiat, or what is it?
We believe, but that's, right. We didn't do any survey on that one. And even if we did do a survey, I don't think we will get the real answers. Yeah. But our understanding is that, first of all, it's simply easier for them.
Okay.
Exactly for the reasons of whatever they have in terms of regular banking thing to be paid, etc. The second is that because this is this very specific audience, it does somehow work easier that, okay, I just put that much crypto and it covers my entire year and I just don't care. So it's, I think it's a mentality of the segment. Okay. To a large extent.
Interesting. Let me sort of spin this. I don't know if you have a point of view on this. A number of financial services players, right? They're also sort of, they love the word super app too these days, right? Everybody loves the word super app, and a super app man can mean anything, right? But a number of these guys are building financial super apps, but they've now started dropping telecoms into it, right? Mm-hmm. So Revolut has done it, Western Union has done it.
Exactly.
There was somebody else who announced last week, I forget the name, they've done it. Do you really see this as something which will capture the imagination of the consumers? Do you expect more and more people to consume telecom services, because you use the word commoditization, right? It's getting commoditized. So, hey, I'll use my bank as the person I'll buy telco services from?
There is, I know, it's not the very fresh idea. That
it's not. Apparently 10 years ago too, it was something similar, right? Yeah.
Exactly, especially with banks. Telcos and banks were always trying to find this...
They've been wanting to get into each other's space all the
exactly.
time. I think it's a lot to do with data, right? It's a lot to do with knowing your customer. It's the intimacy, the interaction.
Yeah, acquisition, easier acquisition. And usually it was stopped by two things. One was because it was national, there was a lot of national regulation. And then you do have two regulators, different regulators, national banks and then telco regulators who are not very much, how to say.
But they've got their own agendas, right? They've got their own objectives.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why it was never really successful. The other thing, and this one is not very much applicable to what is now happening, but the other thing is that there was always a lack of trust about coverage and quality of telco services provided not by telco.
Okay.
And this was proven many, many times, actually. And we bet that if we are growing from telco now as a company and becoming a provider to other services, so we coming front, and then we have financial services or whatever other services at the back end, it will have more trust with people and it will pick up faster than other way around. Mm-hmm. However, as the things will spread, I think also the acceptance of it will increase. And then, this fear of, what is this provider behind it? Will they have enough coverage? Will they have enough quality?
That'll go away.
Will go away, yes.
And is that, I see that's an opportunity for players like you to get in right there, right? Because I guess the big monolithic infrastructure players will take time. Banks also don't want to be, dealing with two dinosaurs together. I do not know if that's the right story, right, to be told. So is this a great opportunity for more fleet-footed players like you guys to sort of go start talking to banks?
Absolutely.
And payment
Absolutely.
companies?
And that's exactly what we are already doing. It's also a move forward which requires from the other dinosaurs. But it seems that for banks, money transfer companies, traveling companies in whatever related travel, airlines, it is just another thing in the line. So they're not much betting on it. And they don't feel that they're taking too much risk of adding it to their portfolio because their main business is different. But for us, yes, it's a B2B sales business. It's anyway will be us meaning this sector, standing behind any of this deal. And it will be gradually develop into a regular B2B regular fight as other telcos have it.
Is there enough money to be made? A bank has to make money. You guys in the middle have to make money. You're also buying I guess, access to infrastructure at a wholesale rate. Mm-hmm. So is there enough money to go around?
Well, enough is always a question. Yeah?
Okay. Is there sufficient money to go around?
There are margins staying with all the layers, let's put it this way. And then it's the question of volume.
Right.
So nobody plays in minus, if that's the question. But
unfortunately, the customer does, but that's all right.
No, come on. The customer is using worldwide infrastructure. And now I'm talking as a former CEO of a telco. It was always insulting to me to say that, telcos are selling air or that it's so cheap and you're selling it so expensive. So but the question is volumes. So whoever gets the bigger volume will grow through that. That's why I'm saying that for other companies doing other business, it will never be a priority. It will be still always just a margin, very small marginal thing for them.
No, it's interesting how it's changing. So here's my last question, and I think it is actually I think it's a perfect question for someone like you, right? Because you've experienced what, if I may use the word, the traditional telco has done. You grew for years within it. You've gone into the disruptive sort of new kids on the block. You're working with adjacent sectors, right? Like financial services. You're bringing in a whole new technology wave with blockchain, DePIN, so on and so forth. You have customers who are using crypto, which 5-10 years ago, I guess in your previous roles would have been what are you talking about? In Dina's view, if I would request, and I'm only just saying 5 to 7 years, how do you see the world of telecommunication from a B2C perspective, from a consumer perspective, actually change? Do you think it's going to look any different, or it's going to look pretty much the same for me, but there's going to be a lot of differences in I guess the behind the scene? How do you see that evolving over the next 5 years?
I think it would look different for B2C customers still. I do believe that there will be quite a portion of people who will stop thinking home providers and will develop this concept into 24/7 connectivity into also everywhere, but like really everywhere. The role of telcos will commoditize even more. So currently we are still talking about telco brands and some image this or that providers have. The same talks about telco brands were also even 20 years ago, and it was already there about commodity, but somehow it feels like now it's real, exactly because it's taking away this physical advantage of physical SIM, of physical infrastructure, which telcos are about. And it has always been the market driven by device producers. So Apple did change the world with what they were doing. They're still doing it. And I do believe that they will be extremely successful in this journey together with guys like us. So I do believe that there will be fewer telcos. There will be many more mergers and acquisitions in that market. They will become more and more infrastructure IT companies looking for optimization of all sorts of it. And they will become sort of, traffic providers.
And that was the interesting one. So you expect going forward more and more of the telco services or even telco data services will be bought through third-party channels rather than the telco providers themselves.
That's my vision, yes.
So we're going to see more what we like to call embedded telco services. So telcos will just become a part of a journey that you might have with your banks, might have with your retailer, might have with your, as you said, your airline. It might start with the cross-border one. It's already started with the cross-border ones, but you'll think it'll also happen in the national infrastructure.
It may not happen in 5 years from now,
but
eventually my sort of longer term vision is that it's going to be almost inevitable. It's like electricity to me still. So there are countries where there are, just one electricity provider, and there are countries where there are networks built. There is also alternative electricity and in cooperation with this. So for me, it's a very good metaphor for what is going to be. I do believe that the DePIN networks for telecommunication providers are like of solar panels on the roofs of people's houses. There is infrastructure to transmit it.
To connect it to the grid,
to connect it to the grid, exactly. And there are then players who are doing this, wholesale trade in all sort of ways, and servicing the end customers eventually.
Fascinating. I guess if you meet in a year's time, I'll inform myself a little bit more. I'll study a little bit more about DePIN. I think that the whole concept of DePIN perfectly makes sense. I think the concept is actually not the newest concept. I think this concept's existed in a lot of ways. I think blockchain just makes it a little bit easier, not a lot easier to make it happen. Dina, thanks for taking out the time. I know you've got a busy Saturday. I hope this was your first meeting and you didn't start earlier in the morning. Okay, well, that's good. Well, this wasn't a meeting, but whatever, sit down. So best of luck. And
Thank you.
I guess whenever you're back in the UAE next, which I've seen will be quite often because you said you're working with some partnerships to unlock the market out here. So best of luck for the future. And thank you for coming.
So much. Thanks. It was a pleasure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Dina. She's the CEO of eSIM Plus. That was a fascinating story. I would suggest if you guys want to understand this conversation a little bit further, read up. There's some very interesting publications on the topic of DePIN, that is decentralized physical infrastructure networks. I think I've got that one right. But with that, goodbye, and I'll see you next week. Bye.